Do you ever feel like your team is just constantly putting out fires, lurching from one crisis to the next? Well, today we're diving into something called total quality management, or TQM for short. And look, it's not just another corporate buzzword. It's a really proven philosophy for getting out of that reactive cycle and building a true culture of excellence. But before we get into all the theory, let's just start with a question for you. Think about your job, your specific role right now. What does a high-quality outcome actually look like? And be honest, what's really stopping you and your team from hitting that perfect outcome every single time?
That constant struggle you're thinking about? That's exactly what TQM is designed to solve. So many organizations are just stuck in that reactive firefighting culture you see on the left. Total quality management gives you a roadmap to make the shift to the right, to a proactive fire prevention culture where we stop blaming people and start improving the systems that caused the problems in the first place.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by defining what total quality really even means. Then we'll get into its 4 foundational pillars, the really core ideas. After that, we'll get practical with the actual toolkit for improvement. And finally, we'll lay out a clear roadmap to put it all into action.
So first up, what exactly is total quality? Now this is absolutely crucial. TQM is not some short-term program or a flavor of the month initiative your boss just read about. No, it's a fundamental management philosophy. It's a long-term commitment to improving everything, all the time, with everyone involved. Let's just break down the name itself, because it tells you the whole story. Total means quality is literally everyone's job, from the CEO down to the person on the front line. Quality, well, that's simply about meeting what the customer needs. And management means this isn't a side project. It is a core business strategy that has to be led from the very top. This orchestra analogy just captures that idea of total involvement perfectly. Think about it. Every single person has a part to play. If one person is out of sync, the quality of the entire performance suffers. It really drives home that everyone is responsible for that final output. So, how do you actually build this kind of culture? Well, it all rests on 4 foundational pillars. You can think of these as the bedrock, the solid ground that supports the entire TQM philosophy. Let's take a look. All right, here they are. Customer focus, employee involvement, a process-oriented approach, and finally, continuous improvement, which you might also know as Kaizen. So let's break down each one of these. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with this first pillar, customer focus. The idea is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. The customer is the ultimate judge of quality. Not us, not our boss, the customer. Every single decision, every process has to be viewed through their eyes. Okay, now here's where TQM really starts to expand your thinking. We all get the idea of external customers, right? The people who pay us. But the real breakthrough is recognizing our internal customers. The next person in your workflow, that's your customer. When the maintenance team starts truly seeing the operations team as its customer, that whole dynamic shifts from us versus them to a real partnership. Let's move on to pillar number 2, employee involvement. And I gotta tell you, this is a massive cultural shift. TQM says that the person who's actually doing the work is the true expert on that job. Their insights aren't just valuable, they are absolutely essential for making real, lasting improvements. And this isn't just about putting up a suggestion box and calling it a day. Real involvement means empowering your people with the training, the tools, and the authority to actually solve problems. And that is totally impossible without a visible, unwavering commitment from leadership to create a blame-free environment where people feel safe to speak up. The third pillar is a process-oriented approach. And this one is a total game changer. When something goes wrong, our first instinct is to ask, who messed up? A TQM culture flips that script entirely. The problem is usually in the process, not the person. So we ask, what's wrong with our process that let this happen? I love this analogy because it makes it so clear, right? If a cake comes out terrible, you don't get mad at the oven. You look at the recipe, the process, to see what went wrong. Did we have the right ingredients, the right measurements? Did we follow the steps in the right order? You fix the recipe. And that brings us to the final pillar, continuous improvement, or Kaizen. This is really the engine of TQM. It's the philosophy that says the journey to excellence is never, ever over. It's about making thousands of small, incremental improvements, not waiting around for some giant 6-month project. It's a commitment to just getting a little bit better every single day.
So we have the philosophy, we have the mindset, but how do you actually do it, right? Let's get practical and open up the toolkit that really puts TQM into practice.
So the most fundamental tool you're going to use is the PDCA cycle. Plan, do, check, act. It's basically the scientific method for business. Simple. You plan a change based on data. You do it, but you start small, as a test. You check the results to see if it actually worked. And then you act. You either standardize the win across the board, or you start the cycle all over again with what you've learned.
A really key concept in the toolkit is understanding the difference between quality control and quality assurance. QC is reactive. It's about finding defects after they already happened, like inspecting a weld after it's done. QA, on the other hand, is proactive. It's about preventing defects from ever happening in the first place, like having a certified procedure so the weld is done right the first time, every time. A mature TQM system lives and breathes in QA.
But with so many things to improve, where do you even start? It can feel overwhelming. That's where the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, is so incredibly powerful. It helps you see that roughly 80% of your problems are usually coming from just 20% of the causes. In this example, just 2 types of equipment cause 80% of the downtime. This helps you focus your limited resources on the vital few issues that will give you the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay, so we understand the philosophy and we have the tools. Now, let's put it all together with a practical roadmap for actually making TQM happen in the real world.
Success isn't about a fancy launch party. It is about getting these fundamentals right day in and day out. It absolutely requires visible leadership, a blame-free culture, continuous training for everybody, a commitment to using data instead of just opinions, and patience. Remember, this is a cultural marathon, not a sprint.
And a phased approach makes this huge transformation feel totally manageable. You start by building a foundation, you train your leaders, and you pick a few pilot projects to get some early wins on the board. Then you roll it out more broadly, celebrating every little success to build momentum. And finally, you integrate TQM into the very DNA of the company, so it just becomes how we do things around here. So, when you boil it all down, the crucial takeaway is this. The real value of TQM doesn't come from just understanding the concepts in your head. It comes from applying them. The goal is not just to learn TQM, it's to consistently do TQM every single day.
Total Quality Management teaches us that quality is a journey, not some final destination you arrive at. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What's the first small, tiny, incremental improvement you can make in your own work tomorrow?